Okay, so Stieg Larsson, who is my author, is one of the best-selling authors in the world. In fact, according to abooks.com, in 2008, Stieg Larsson was the second best-selling author globally, so obviously he has a big audience. However, his books were published after his death, so I don't know exactly what kind of audience he anticipated having. He might have imagined that one day his books would be translated to English, at least for UK readers, but in reality, he has a global audience. This made it a little bit difficult for me to analyze his audience because I don't have his commentary on, what he thinks about his audience. However, I think that we can assume his original readership would have been Swedish adults because of the mature content of the novels. They're not exactly maybe as universal as Diana Wynne-Jones' books would be because children really just couldn't read them. The content is too explicit, it's too mature, and they're just complex books. I honestly don't know myself if I would have been able to finish them in high school. I think his audience invoked is really interesting because he is clearly trying to send a message through these novels. He has like a political motivation there. He's trying to send a message about the corruptness of the Swedish government and injustices that women face at the hands of men. So what he does is he positions his readers to receive his message through a male point of view. The point of view that is most predominant throughout the books is that of a man who is an investigative journalist, so he investigates corruption, and he's also very, very close to the main female character, who is the victim of these injustices. So readers get this insight from him where he is like very close, he knows most about what's happened to her, so they get that kind of point of view as they're reading. This interests me in particular because what I believe Larsson was doing through this was actually giving readers the chance to receive his message through his own point of view. In fact, Larsson was an investigative journalist, and in his youth he witnessed sexual abuse that kind of motivated him to spread this message in the first place. So he's actually positioning his readers to be open to his message through his own eyes. Now, obviously Larsson died before his books became so huge that they were to be translated. So the translation was left up to Stephen Murray, and he had to make sure that that translation was appropriate for Larsson's audience. I found this interesting article on readerviews.com, where editor Irene Watson actually basically says that texts translated for the American audience kind of need to be simplified. Readers read novels first and foremost for entertainment, so they're not really looking to have to work for it, and she feels that texts that have too much of a foreign element are too complex because of the foreign words or the names that are used. They're just too much for American audiences. Personally, I had a hard time taking her article seriously because she misspelled some of the foreign words that she was using to try and prove her point. But I also think that Stephen Murray, the translator of these works, would have disagreed with her as well, just based on the translation itself. There are still some very Swedish elements that they could be difficult to follow if you're like a lazy reader or if you're just not mature enough for it. For example, the names that are used are very common Swedish last names, and some of them are similar to other characters in the book, and if you're not focusing or paying attention, it might be a little bit too much for you. So I don't think Stephen Murray was really underestimating his audience. I think that he also believed them to be a mature group of people who could work for this. So as far as the relationship that Larsson, and through the translation, Stephen Murray, have with the audience, they're not like arguing and they're not lecturing. It's kind of like he's just telling the story through the characters. There's no need for it to be like an opinionated narration because Larsson himself creates a close relationship with his audience by inserting himself in that main character. So the readers are already getting his opinion and his point of view on things. So obviously because of his death, these are just my understandings of his audience. I don't have his commentary, but based on the way that he placed himself in there and positions readers to receive his message, that's what I believe about his audience.